Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Last week the Labour Party held its caucus in Whangarei. It's a beautiful city. They're wondering where their member for Parliament is, but you know, it is a beautiful city. And when we were there, Mr Speaker, we spoke with a number of different businesses. And the businesses that I was talking to there in particular were the boat building industry. This is an industry that Whangarei has been trying to grow. And when we went there, Mr Speaker, what we discovered was that boat building industry was looking for a government that could provide some leadership. The boat building industry was looking for a plan, because what we've seen from this government is the complete absence of a plan, and that's what the boat building industry wanted. They said to us, we've got people here who want to work. We've got people here who are skilled, and all we want from the government is some support. All we want from the government is some interest in our industries. And they have seen nothing, Mr Speaker, nothing whatsoever. All we've seen are a set of half-baked ideas and slogans. The cycleway, the mining, the financial services hub, all slogans, all good ideas, but nothing in practice that makes up a plan. A list of goals, a list of slogans is not a plan, Mr Speaker. This government is poll-driven. This government is without a plan. Stephen Joyce tells us on savings. Stephen Joyce talked before about savings. Nothing's off the table, nothing's on the table. In fact, Stephen Joyce is polling to see if there should be a table. He wants to know whether there should be a table. They're not sure if there's anything on it, off it, because we still have to pay. Goodness, Tony Ryle doesn't even have a plan to get his shirt and tie to match, let alone having a government that has a plan in the area of the public sector. The best thing that we've heard from the government in terms of a plan for the public sector is Bill English telling us that corrections will be the biggest department in this country in the next 2 or 3 years. That will be the ambition of this government. That will be the legacy of this government, that they will put more New Zealanders in prison. Judith Collins is proud. Judith Collins says that this is going to be the economic leader. This is the thing to give us growth, building more prisons. That's the extent of the image. That's the extent of the ambition of this government. What we hear from them is that they're a blank sheet. They're going to kick the tyres. Nothing's off the table. Mr Speaker, this government is all map and no compass. It's all about what the polls are telling them and not about what they actually want to do. No plan, no principles, no point in actually being in government if all they're going to do is kick the tyres. If all they're going to do is come down to this House and say that they have to rely on what's happened over the last 9 years. It's too difficult to come back. I'll tell Mr Joyce what people told us in Whangarei. They're not interested in a government that's looking backwards, looking for someone to blame. They're looking for a government that's actually going to invest in people. And Mr Joyce says that he's put money in for more places in tertiary education. Well, if that's the case, Mr Joyce, why are the universities locking the doors? Why are the universities locking the doors if they put so much more money into New Zealand? And what we know from the Department of Labour, is they've told us that by 2018 the demand for degree qualified people will exceed supply. The supply of people with vocational qualifications will be insufficient. This is what the Department of Labour is telling the government, yet Mr Joyce is locking the doors on universities and polytechs. There is no plan from this government other than a plan to read the next poll, to look into the future and say, will Stephen Joyce and John Key be able to continue to enjoy the ministerial salary? What this country is looking for is some investment in skills, some investment in training, some investment in jobs. And the government proudly brings out its new 6 goals. The word jobs features once in that bit of paper. The government's goals that do not make a plan include the word jobs once. That is simply not good enough. Shouting slogans at unemployed people, telling them to get off welfare is not a plan. The way to get people off welfare is not to shout slogans at them and abuse at them, it's to help create jobs. And the fact of the matter is that this government has done very, very little since it came into government about actually creating jobs, about sitting down with businesses like those boat builders in Whangarei and saying to them, how can we support you? How can we ensure that you've got a skilled workforce? What about supporting, Mr Joyce, the Kiwi Jobs Bill? That's what those boat builders told us in Whangarei. They said, why is that contract gone to Singapore to refurbish the Tangaroa? That's what they asked us. They want investment in New Zealand.
I call Hiki Parata.